Assalamualaikum and a very good evening to all. So today we are from group 4, which consists of me, Nur Farina Fazin binti Zulkifli, and Suhadatul Nabilah Supardi, and also Saidatul Fikih Muhammad Nizam will present about one of the qualitative research design, which is ethnography. So let's start. Next slide. Okay, so for the contents, today we will present about this contents, which is first the definition, second is example, and third is characteristic, which these three will be presented by Sadatul Fiqh. And next is the types of ethnography, which is realist and critical. Realist will be presented by Suhadatul Nabilah, and critical ethnography will be presented by me, Nur Farina Fazlin. Okay, so next.
I will present on the definition and example. The first one is the definition of ethnography, which is ethnography is a research process in which the researcher closely observe, record, and engage in the daily life of another culture, and then writes accounts of this culture, emphasizing descriptive detail. So, meaning that an ethnographer is someone who go to the field site, do the research there, observe the culture in the research area, and then describe it in details in the research paper. One of the example of ethnographic research is written by Betulianic back in 2017, which is the title of the article is An Ethnographic Approach to Education. What are you doing in this village? And it is published in Journal of Education and Practice, volume number 8, issue number 26. So this ethnographic research done by Betulianic is actually about a village in Turkey. Back in 1971, a flood disaster happened and it caused many deaths in one of the base mountain in Turkey. And then because of that incident, uh, the the area is now split into two village, which is old village and new village. Betulianic is a teacher uh, in in new village, and she served there for 8 months, and at for wait, Betulianic served as teacher in new village for 8 years, and then he she she heard a lot of bad stories and negative comments about old village. So she decided to do a research there, and she stayed in new village for 8 months to observe the culture and describe the village in the paper. So here are some of the characteristics of ethnographic research. The first one, it is conducted in natural setting, which means that the people in the research area is act is acting are acting naturally. They are not faking their actions, and it is it is called natural setting. And then the second one is it is done within the field site, meaning that the research is uh, for example, a researcher want to do a research in UPM. So he or she need to be in UPM and stay there, do the research there, and complete the research there. Not that he or she went to the UPM 10 years ago, and then she she or he wants to do the research about that past experience. No. So the third one is provide holistic and systematic overview of the context. Means that uh, the reader can the reader can understand the overview of the research area, not only an individual in the research area. And then the fourth one is documents native perspectives, which means that in the research paper, the ethnographer needs to also include the initial purpose of why she wants to do the research and what what is the original perspective about the research area. And then descriptive and interpretive, which means that the wait which means that the researcher needs to describe in detail and interpret the meaning of the research of the interpret the meaning of the results. And then guided by general research questions, not hypotheses, so that the researcher will not be biased. And the last one is focus on meaning of words and image rather than numbers. So we know that ethnography is one of the qualitative research, so that's why it is focusing on words more than numbers. So that's all from me. Next slide, Farina. Okay, in an ethnography research, there are two major types, which are realist and critical. So I'm gonna be explaining on realist ethnography research. Next. Okay, this realist ethnography is a popular approach used by cultural anthropologists besides critical. Mm, previous. Okay, as I said, it is most common approach that is used by ethnographers. It is an objective account of the situation written in the third person point of view and reporting objectively on the information learned from participants at the field site. Here, objectively means that the report solely on facts, on on what they have seen, and it is independent from researchers' perceptions and emotions. The ethnographer remain in the background as reporter of the facts, as I said just now. Next slide. Okay, researchers' reports do not include any personal bias, political goals, and judgment. Ethnographers only narrates the study in the passionate voice, and reports only on observation of participants and their views. No personal bias, political goals, and judgment. And realists may provide mundane details of everyday life among the people they studied. For example, their families, their work life, their social networks, and status systems. Now I'm gonna pass to Farina.
Okay, so the second type of ethnography is critical ethnography. So, as we know, ethnography focuses on entire cultural group. Okay, so we need to understand it first. Entire cultural group. So, okay, so in critical ethnography, the main issue that centered in this type of ethnography is certain groups in society exert more power than others. This is the main thing that we need to comprehend. So, firstly, as its name suggests, it is specifically critical in its intent. This qualitative research approach specifically attempts to criticize hegemony, oppression, and asymmetrical power relations in order to foster social change and modify them for the better. So here we can see the difference between critical ethnography and realist ethnography, which presented by Nabila just now, where for realist, it's just like observations and stating facts only. But for critical ethnography, we want to make changes in the society, in the culture group, not just observe and write reports about that. We also want to modify them, to change them for the better, to create a better things for the society. Okay, so its primary objective is basically, like I said, to free individuals from oppression and coercion, particularly those characteristic of late capitalism. Characteristic of late capitalism here, it means like the back in 1940 or 30, where like the monopoly and rake system exists. Okay, so like the same thing as oppression and coercion lah. I mean, yes. Okay, so next. Okay, a critical ethnographer will study issues of power, empowerment, inequality, inequity, dominance, repression, hegemony, and victimization, and recommend way, actually it's a mistake there, a recommend way to redress social power inequity. So basically in critical ethnography, it's about inequality and power issues and something like that. So the ethnographer, the critical ethnographer, feels a moral obligation toward changing the conditions toward greater equity. So it means that when the researcher made the research about this problem, they need to have the conscientiousness of changing the problem, the condition toward a better change. Okay. So yeah, for example, here we can see there is the critical ethnography, critical ethnographer. So this critical ethnographer might study schools that provide privileges to certain types of students and establish unfair circumstances between members of different social classes. So here we can see that like the problem exists here, the issue exists here, where there's imbalance of equality between boys and girls, where in this school the boys are mainly the one who need to speak up, but the girls need to be silent because of the gender issues here, gender inequality. So here, what the critical ethnographers must do is they must use privileges, attributes, resources, knowledge, and other factors to break through this inequality and access the stories of those who may be suppressed or restrained by the system in such a way to defend their voice. Means that this critical ethnographers need to do something with all the things that they have in order to create a better life for the victims. Okay. So for realist ethnography just now, the reports may be about all the facts, right? But for critical ethnographers, it's all about the report is all about about their like their own bias. I mean, it's not about their own bias, but the reports consist their personal bias, not just facts. So it's self-conscious about their own interpretation of the critical ethnographers. Yeah, so it's how the ethnographers, the critical ethnographers view the problems there. So yeah, basically all in all, critical ethnography has an explicit agenda and ethical responsibility to promote freedom, social justice, and equity and well-being. So basically, critical ethnography is to make the society freed from oppression, coercion, and so on. So yeah, that's all from me. Thank you. So yeah, this is other references of our presentation. So With that, thank you. Yeah, that's all from our presentation of ethnography.